Beth Moore writes, Andy Stanley has captured grace with a wide-angle lens, and it is one beautiful sight. Nice picture on the cover, too. Andy, thank you so much for opening our vision to more of the depth of, I think, a fathomless reality,
yeah,
the grace of God.
The grace of God is fathomless. There is no end, there is no limit.
Here is a great statement, and I bet you're going to take us back to the time of Jesus. Grace is inviting to the unrighteous and threatening to the self-righteous.
Yeah, that pretty much explains everything that happened to Jesus in his lifetime. He came as a picture, as a human representation of the grace and truth of God. John tells us that he was grace and truth rolled into one, but it was his grace that was the dividing line. His grace was extended to those who were unrighteous and they were attracted to him. Those that were self-righteous, those that felt like they had earned their place, earned their way, earned a right to address God directly, they were threatened by Jesus. And so that grace is what divided the group. So consequently, the self-righteous were repelled by God's grace. The unrighteous were attracted. And so grace is the thing that God uses, I think, many times to bring us to the end of ourselves, to break us, to bring us to that point where we realize we really are in need. And so consequently, until we come to that place where our self-righteousness is depleted by our recognition of sin, by our recognition of failure, we aren't candidates, really, for the grace of God. So again, the self-righteous resist it, the unrighteous are attracted to it.
And there's another word you use that I appreciated because I see this. I think it's a barrier to God and His blessing, and it is self-exile.
Yeah.
It's people who've decided they've gone too far, they have too much sin, they've blown it too many times, and they've disqualified themselves, or they feel disqualified from
For that
God's
group,
goodness.
grace is too good to be true.
Yeah.
And the truth is, grace is too good to be true from a human standpoint. I would never extend to you the kind of grace that God has extended to you, probably, if you had offended me the way that your sin or my sin has offended God. And so since I'm not a recipient of that kind of grace in my human relationships, it's almost unimaginable for us that God would extend that kind of grace to us. And so you're exactly right, it's self-exile. I take myself out of the equation. And one of the reasons I wrote The Grace of God was to try to open up this idea to everyone, again, not to just good people or bad people, but people, to say that God's grace is available to you, it's sufficient for you, and as we learn from the life of King David, it has no load limits, that grace is always available, because it's not my grace or your grace, it's the grace of God.
I'm glad you mentioned David, because he continues to be remembered, according to God's divine editorship,
right,
as a man after God's own heart,
yep,
in spite of
a lot.
Yeah, you can read it for yourself in God's Word or in Andy's book. Ooh, it is so good. We want to make this available to you. Grateful that we can for the month of August. It is our thank you for your financial gift to keep us strong through summer. Here's the info.
The dilemma of Christianity, the dilemma of all religion, is what do I do about me, and what do I do about my past, and what do I do about my failure, and what do I do about my sin? What if we really have fallen short? What if you're condemned before God? What if you don't measure up and you're going to be held accountable? Then do you want what's fair? Then do you want what's just? I want exactly and precisely what I deserve the least.
The Grace of God by author and pastor Andy Stanley is our thanks to you for your ministry support. To receive your copy, call 1-800-265-3100 with your best ministry gift. You can write to Crossroads in Canada or the United States, or make a secure online donation at crossroads.ca.